Lovely. So Sue, our penguin counter, has just noticed that these penguins have arrived on the water's edge. So she's just called a water's edge. And there they are. Oh, how fantastic is this? Let's zoom in on these guys as they cross the beach. I say zoom in on these guys. It's both male and female. Um, Roughly 50-50 males and females come home every night. It's a nice little group. So have a guess as to how many penguins you see in this little group crossing the beach. When they're in the ocean, a group of penguins is called a raft of penguins. When they're on land, they don't have an official grouping name, but unofficially, we love to call them a waddle of penguins. Let's see if we can get that camera a little better focus. There we go. So 6:38 is our start time tonight. And Sue is desperately counting all of these penguins. She'll let us know how many have crossed in that first group. But feel free to put your guesses in the comments. And if you get it right or very, very close, you might be our next penguin counter. Hopefully when we do open up, we'll be looking to get lots of people to come back and work for us. And one of the jobs is being a penguin counter in the evening, which is a fantastic position to have. Now I wonder, do we have a number of how many penguins are in this group, T?
Just a small group came in first, so we had 31 in that little group.
31 penguins in this little group right here. Well, you can double check Sue's counting if you like. We try to be as accurate as possible, but it can be very tricky with these penguins waddling around and shifting positions, some going faster than others and tripping and falling on their way across the beach. Oh, I just love zooming in on these guys as they get out of the ocean. They shake their flippers and feathers, they're shaking their heads, making sure they get all the salt out of their eyes, making sure they dry themselves off. And we've got our little puddle that's still here. This puddle showed up again last night, so it's a very special puddle. And they got a little diving board right here, which is always fun to watch. Cannonball right in, good splashdown. They sometimes do a belly flop. Some of them do a little cannonball. Very rarely do they see an elegant dive. So feel free to give these guys a score out of 10. You can judge them on their artistic ability in jumping into this puddle. And they'll be swimming across this puddle because penguins, they love to swim. They're much better swimmers than they are walkers or waddlers. So they're going to love jumping into this puddle, having a bit of a shortcut home. Let's just follow this guy as I can keep up with them. They're much faster in the water. These guys will be swimming around 4 kilometers an hour through this water. But when they're sprinting, they can get speeds of about 6 or 7 kilometers an hour. Lovely. Let's see. Ooh, we just got this group walking past the camera on the top right. I'll try and follow them for you. I won't be able to follow them. I'll try to get them in the shot for you. You can just see them waddling by nice and close up. This is fantastic. So these penguins are going on a journey home. A lot of them will be going back to eggs. Some of them might have chicks in their burrows. And those who don't have eggs or chicks are going to be thinking about finding a partner and starting a family very soon. There's one little penguin just above those two there that is looking around. He might have a little burrow nearby. Well, let's go back to our main camera, see if we can spot any more penguins. Oh, it's a bit barren out here, but I saw a group on the water's edge.
Question from Ruby, who's 5. How do they find their way home, Stephen?
Ooh, Ruby, who is 5, is just asking, how do our penguins find their way home? And that is a great question because we've often wondered, how do penguins properly find their way homes? We have some researchers here who study questions like this to try and find the right answer. And we found out that penguins find their way home by using their eyes, just like we do when we travel. Now, if you're taking the bus to school or if you're driving around to the supermarket, you probably take the same roads every time. We are creatures of habits, and we like to take the quickest or the most consistent road to the supermarket or wherever we're going. We don't like to change our pathways too much, and penguins are very much the same. They always go back to the same burrow. They're only traveling on land. What they're really doing is from the ocean to their burrow, and they're not going to be moving house too much, not moving burrows too much in their lifetime. So they've memorized that pathway really well, and they use their eyes to look for the landmarks that they recognize the same way we do. We know stop signs, we know road signs, or maybe a big supermarket is a good landmark. And we rely on our eyes and our memory to find our way home, just like the penguins. Oh, this is a nice big, whoa! Look at the size of that group. All right, potential penguin counters, do your best. Let us know how many penguins are in this group.
I'm so glad I'm not counting that lot,
I'm
Steve.
so glad I'm not Sue tonight, or they've got a really tough job ahead of them. I can tell you quite easily that's more than 100 penguins. So if you're thinking it might be 100, under 100 penguins, aim a bit higher because there's a lot of penguins in this group. Can't even fit them all onto one screen and have to zoom out to try and get them all in. Wow, look at that. We might get Sue to give us a radio and let us know how many penguins in that group. Good luck, Sue. Send her your best wishes. She does not have an easy job tonight. And look at them just stumbling all over the rocks. Wow, that's fantastic. Jumping into the pool, some of them are just so eager to get ready for their journey home. I'll keep the camera focused on these penguins that are just a little resting right here on the edge of the pool. They just got out of the water. They're shaking their feathers, trying to dry themselves off, not realizing that they have another bit of water to swim through again. I love this little penguin just standing on the edge of the diving board here, getting ready to go. And in you go, buddy. Well done. Now, we would love to have you guys here. You'd be lucky enough to be on this stand if you buy the Penguins Plus tickets, and the penguins would literally be swimming underneath your feet. Because just at the bottom of the screen here, you can see our Penguins Plus stand and a nice group of penguins swimming across the water there. Look at that. All right, let's swap over to this other camera because we got a nice waddle of penguins making their way past the camera. And look at them waddling their little ways home. Now, some of these penguins are lucky to have a close to the beach property, a beachfront property, but some of our penguins might have to walk almost 2 kilometers to get home. And we're just going to get Sue to let us know how many penguins were in that last group. Wow, look at how many of these guys are just making their way past. Now that little glass window on the left, that is to our underground viewing area. It's one of the tickets you can buy when we open up again. And the penguins will be literally that close to the glass. You could have your face just on the other side of that glass, almost close enough to kiss one of the penguins that's walking by. All right, let's pop back over to the beach. I did not hear that. How many was that, T?
That was 302 in that massive group.
302 penguins in that last group. That is a very big group of penguins. I reckon there was a couple of groups that joined up to form one large raft out on the ocean because that's quite a large group, which means we're going to have good numbers again tonight. Now, the numbers of penguins we have crossing this beach does fluctuate. It does vary from night to night. It's not always the same number of penguins every night. And the reason for this is our penguins can sleep on the ocean. They don't need to come home every night. Now, penguins float on the water. They don't need to swim to stay above the water's surface. So what our penguins will do is they'll stick their flippers out to the sides as they're resting on top of the water. They'll tilt their heads back and they'll fall asleep for 4 minutes. No longer than 4 minutes. They have very short sleeps before they wake up and they dive underwater and keep looking around for food that they're going to eat. But they'll have many, many, many sleeps every day and night. Doesn't matter to them if it's day or night too much. They will sleep both times. Lovely. I love seeing these little guys on these rocks as well. It's such a cute feature. They just love to rest on these rocks, socializing, preening their own feathers. You see lots of interesting behaviors. There's a penguin at the bottom who's reaching around just above his tail with his beak. He's reaching around to its oil gland, and he's going to spread that oil on his beak all over his feathers to keep himself waterproof. Now, penguins are meticulous about their feathers. They want to make sure that they remain waterproof. They want to make themselves beautiful for their partners at home. And so they're not going to rush home looking all scruffy in case the missus is waiting for them. They want to make themselves beautiful before they get there. Lots of that preening behavior. Sometimes you'll see a couple of penguins preening each other. They're very good at preening their own body right up until the base of their neck, but they can't get their own neck and they can't get their own heads with their beak. So they might rely on a friendly nearby penguin who will give them a helping hand or a helping beak to make sure that they preen each other. They might not even know each other, but penguins are social birds. They like to help each other out. Oh, I love these guys just hanging around on these resting rocks. Last little socialization, stopping off at the pub before they go home for the night. All right, I'm going to zoom out and see if we can spot any more penguins. Oh my goodness. Talk about good timing. That's another big group. Oh, I wonder if we're going to have as many penguins as we did last night. There's lots of big groups coming out tonight, so make sure you get your guesses into the comments and tune in again tomorrow night so you can hear the answers, see if you get the right numbers. Wow, this is just fantastic. Now, the breeding season is such an exciting time of year for us at the Penguin Parade because we get so many penguins coming home. They've got to feed their babies as often as they can. They don't want to let their babies go hungry for more than a day or two because a fat baby is a healthy baby for a penguin. So they're coming home as often as they can, whereas in the winter months, they don't usually have too many babies, so they're happy to spend a month on the ocean at a time before they come back to land. So you can imagine the numbers between our summer months, our spring and summer months, are quite a lot higher than usually we get in our winter months. That's a lot of penguins hanging around on this rock. Unfortunately, the last group, that first group that's still standing there, are blocking the way for all of our other penguins, but no worries, they're just going to push their way through, just shoving the penguins aside because they want to get home. Some of them are thinking, I've got a long trip ahead of me, better get started now, let's get my little journey home going. Look at these guys, they push their way through, getting ready to dive right back into the water. Oh, he's feeling a bit nervous. Oh, slipped in. Wow, just look at them motoring through the water. It's very special to see our penguins swimming so close. They're quite fast little swimmers. This isn't a fast swim for them by any stretch. It's a very cruisy swim, a very low energy swim, saving their energy for their long journey home. And as I said, some of our penguins might be walking almost 2 kilometers to get home. It's a long trip. Let's see if we can follow a group of penguins up this way. We've got another pathway going a bit more directly up the hill. That last group of penguins that went below us, they're just in that top right screen above me. You can see them waddling their way past. These little penguins are going up a much steeper hill to start with, but they'll get to the top before any of the other penguins do. Now that brown box just below those penguins where they disappear, that's one of our penguin burrows. It's an artificial burrow, one that we have made for our penguins. And there are penguins who do live there. They might not be coming home tonight. As I said, penguins can sleep on the ocean, so they don't come home every night to go to sleep. But if we're lucky, we might be able to see some penguins in a burrow in the near future. It's getting really hard to see those penguins in the darkness. Our lights don't stretch too far up into the hills. But don't worry about the lights that we use around here for our eyes. The lights that we use are almost invisible to our penguins' eyes. They're the wrong color spectrum. Our penguins don't see the colors yellow, orange, or red very well, whereas our eyes can see those colors. And the lights we use here are very yellow, orange in color. So they're very dull to a penguin's eyes. If you wanted an example of what it would look like for us, if we had our mast lights made out of infrared lights, it would be the same for us. We do not see the color infrared. Other animals can see that color, but we cannot. And we would be in the darkness if we had infrared lights as our mast lights. So when we're using these yellow lights, the penguins think they're in the darkness. They don't really notice them. It's a very special feature that we have here, a way that we can help protect our penguins here at the Penguin Parade without impacting them, without causing them undue stress due to some of our presence here. We're very passionate about keeping these penguins as wild as they possibly can be. We got this lovely Penguins Plus stand you can see just at the bottom here where you'd be able to sit down. And this stand was built about 5 years ago, back when I first started at the Penguin Parade. And it was a lot of work to make sure the penguins were safe during its construction. And I remember we had these penguin-proof fence up around the construction site. We had to make sure that a couple of penguins were not in the construction site when we started building. And we had a wildlife officer who would visit before the construction guys came in every morning, making sure no penguins had snuck past our penguin-proof fence, putting them into a different burrow if they had snuck in. She'd be on call all day long in case the construction workers had any problems with penguins in the construction site or nearby. And on one instance, they actually called our wildlife officer because they noticed a penguin outside in the daytime. And our penguins, they should not be outside in the open in the daytime because there are predators that like to prey on penguins in the daytime. Big birds of prey that eat small animals will take penguins home and have a meal of them if they catch them outside in the daytime. But our penguins are clever. They stay hidden in their burrows during the day or out on the ocean, and they shouldn't set foot outside, otherwise they're in danger. But these construction workers, big tough men coming in to do some hard work, were worried about this penguin. So they called our wildlife officer and they came down, she came down, gathered up the penguin who was outside in the daytime, and we took it to our wildlife clinic, made sure he was safe, and there was no harm caused. So we're very passionate. Even if that penguin wasn't in our construction site, we still like to take care of our animals here, make sure nothing that we are doing is causing them any undue stress or causing them some confusion.